We are back. I hope that so far you guys are having a really interesting and productive time with us. I know that this is a big investment from your side on your business, spending an entire morning online with us. I am going to, Mohamad, are you there?
Yes.
Good. So Mohamad, I'm very excited because you're going to talk to us about business systems, operational controls, and internal project management, so that we can understand how to streamline our business operations and manage our day-to-day workflows. So without any further ado, I am going to hand over to you so that we can finish on time at 12 o'clock. If you have any questions, just pop them into the chats for us. And towards the end, you can raise your hands and we will take more questions from you. Mohamad, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Actually, I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to actually encourage interaction. So I'll be calling on a lot of you to actually express yourself a bit more openly on this topic. And I want to also start with a question. When you hear about business systems, I need you to tell me what that sounds to you. I need you to just pop in any response on the chat. And I really want to hear from you. What does business systems mean to you? And I'm going to give you 15 seconds.
Well, I can tell you, for me, it just sounds like admin. More stuff to do. Fatima's saying working in an organized way.
Working in an organized way. What does business systems actually mean?
Anvil is saying strategies, administration, infrastructure, and templates.
Okay, that's interesting. Anyone else?
Who else? What do you think when you think of business systems? Grace is saying systems that makes your business function better.
That's good. That's good.
Platforms that businesses use to operate effectively, store data, operational ability, automation, distribution channels, strategy reviews, and feedback.
Nice. Keep them coming because I'm going to be calling on you specifically for these points that you guys are raising. But to basically start with, I just wanted to start with a point that Paul ended his presentation with. You know, when you deal with your business, with your clients, you being the suppliers, you want to be able to communicate with them. And there was a very fair point that was basically made around, you know, it's not always easy for you to remember that I need to be able to communicate and share some sort of progress, maybe performance. You want to be able to have a routine when you're engaging with your clients and share some sort of data, you know. And when Caroline came through, there was amazing list of tools, very different tools, very powerful tools. Some required you to spend a little bit of money, and others required you to, you know, it's basically free. You just had to put in some time, putting in some effort, wanting to learn and really experimenting. But what I wanted to actually speak on is this definition here of a business systems. So structured procedures, and I want to break this down into few sections so that I can tap into the comments that you guys are putting forward. Structured procedures, workflows, and business objectives. And I want to start with the letter. So I will be pointing out on a random answer here. Please feel free to unmute and just tell me. I want you to use your comment to define what type of business objective do you have that allows you or guide you into putting that comment in defining business system. And I'm just going to be, you know, putting some random person. Let's start with Glenn. I think it's Glenn Bargins. You mentioned something to do with having operational ability. Can you just unmute and unpack that point within the perspective of an objective. What type of business objective do you have that makes a system allowing you to have operational ability?
I'm just thinking in terms of my business now.
Yeah.
Let me just, I've got an echo yesterday about this with one speaker.
Okay.
Okay, so operational ability to me is one of the most critical things in the business, because firstly, it sets the tone in terms of how you're looking at your business as a whole, where you're coming from, looking at the business with having a bird's eye view, and then being able to work within a system that, for example, if I were to be incapacitated, without me being able to be there, the system would be able to guide someone from outside to continue.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's too wide or what.
Well, it's a good starting point, but I want to basically zone in a little bit on one particular point, and I want to ask you a different question. You are assuming you are a supplier to City of Cape Town, and you want them to be the best, they're the best client, obviously, but you want to show yourself. And Paul touched on this quite a bit. I want you to tell me, what type of objective do you think is relevant for you to achieve? You want to be the best supplier to the city. Give me one objective that you have as a company and you want to achieve it. What would that be?
I think trust is the first one.
Trust. Okay.
Governance, proper governance.
Proper governance.
Reliability, references.
Brilliant. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Trust. And there was a lot of goodwill that Paul basically touched on as well. If you want to become one of the best suppliers, you want to be able to operate from a point of humanity, of kindness, of care. Your service offering must really match what your customers want, that mutual benefit. Now, when you think of accomplishing that, you need to be able to deduce it and quantify it. Because if you want to use business systems to achieve what you would term as a trust, you want to be able to quantify. How do I quantify trust? It might mean different things to different people, but having that objective and quantifying that objective, it basically put it to life. You are actually giving birth visibly to one particular set of objectives for which the use of a system can allow you to accomplish. It gives you visibility. Why I like what you pointed out, Glenn, is because over and above operational ability, you want to have operational visibility. And that to me was something very, very powerful. Visibility can mean so many things as well. And I will be using your position as a supplier to any potential client, the city or otherwise. How can you use your business systems to formulate the right structures, the right procedures, and the right workflows so that you can achieve a business objective? So for you, Glenn, trust. I want to hear from Tato. Tato, you spoke about automation. Tell me a little bit about automation from the same lens of having the right business objective as one of the best suppliers that you want to be.
Unmute. Okay. So I think for me, personally, I hate repetitive tasks, right? And so I think automation really comes from there, where I'm saying, if a task is automated, you will get the same results all the time.
Correct.
And really that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
And I think the values that I'm extracting from there, one would be consistency, right? I want my customers to get a consistent experience, irrespective of who they're dealing with, within the organization, right?
Yeah.
The second one would be quality. Obviously, we want products to be of high quality, timelessly. If there's a problem, to deal with it properly. So quality is one of the big ones. And the last one for me would be experience. Like I said, I want my customers to experience the same service, irrespective of who they're dealing with within the organization. And I think
correct.
Really that's where automation stems from for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Tata, for that point. And I totally agree with you. One of the importance, in fact, as you can see, is improving consistency. Remember, you are not just an individual. As a supplier of services to a company or many other clients, you want to present this essence of governance. There is a team behind what you do, and each and every one of you can be relied on. You can be depended on to achieve the same objective that your entity needs to achieve. And that requires you to have consistency. Now, conceptually speaking, if you are actually understanding the need to have business systems, your understanding have to really connect those objectives. Consistency is key. Efficiency is key. And we talk a lot about streamlining operations, and I'm going to actually unpack this a little bit more, because it's easy to talk of streamlining operations, but it's not as easy to do it practically. And I would basically pinpoint similar, or maybe rather typical examples you guys will be facing. You receive a request for quotation from a potential customer, and maybe you work on a particular platform where these type of quotations request will be sent to you. How many of you, and be honest, there's no judgment here, how many of you actually keep track of each and every RFQ that was sent and keep record of each and every RFQ that was quoted and not quoted? And just by show of hand, I actually keep track of every RFQ that I don't even quote, for the purpose of understanding, why am I skipping this? Why did I not respond to this? Who is basically doing that? Impressive to see. Well, absolutely. Most of you are doing it. Glenn, I'm quite disappointed, but I hope now you can pick up you can learn a thing or two now.
Yeah, to be
it's
honest,
very important. It's quite important, and I'm actually quite happy that most of you are doing it. And what is typically happening, thank you, Celeste. What is typically happening is a lot of people tend to keep track of only the RFQ they are only responding to. So if you speak to them after a quarter, after 6 months, after a year, and you are assessing their performance, you are actually realizing there was this blanket, this vacuum. You don't really get to see what was not done. And because of that lack of visibility, you don't really know if what was skipped, what was not quoted, was it really not quoted because we were unable to, or because maybe we just fell behind? There could be many reasons why people are not doing something, especially responding to quotes. But if you are not having that visibility of what did I do, what did I not do, what did I receive, having the right system should answer those objectives. If your objective is to boost efficiency, you want to understand, you want to define, and you want to supervise what efficiency really means to you as a company. So from a business system perspective, the one takeaway that I want you guys to really adhere to is understanding what objectives you want to achieve. It's very easy for you to, the session we just came from seeing from Caroline, those beautiful tools, they are very powerful, but they come secondary to something else. There has to be a plan. There has to be an objective. Otherwise, yes, you are always going to feel overwhelmed. So I was actually taking points and notes when I see people saying, this tool can work very well. Maybe this tool is not very good. This is not, quite confusing. Or maybe this one is too expensive. If I'm being absolutely honest, as someone who works in a space of technology, there is no inexpensive tool. Expensive is relative to something else. Maybe your objectives are not in line with that particular tool. Similar to what El-Marie was saying, maybe your business isn't at a stage of making use of a particular tool in that moment. But you can only know that if you understand and you have defined your objectives. And the use of technology requires you to define objectives. There are so many tools out there, and you can't practically use each and every one of them. So if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you're always going to be jumping from one tool to the next, simply because there isn't any sort of guidance that can basically tell you how to operate. And that's the first point I want you guys to understand from a conceptual perspective. Why do we have objectives when it comes to the introduction of business systems? Right? And then let's go to the second part. There was plenty of examples on some of the example of tools that can help you to define a particular objective. Your CRMs, we have seen quite a bit of them. Some ERP systems, we have seen, I'm sure you guys are familiar with quite a bit of them as well. Sage have a lot of good tools. For most established companies, they'll be using SAP. There are a lot of ERP solutions. And the main thing about ERP solutions is understanding the operational dimension of your of your business. So you have end-to-end operations. Inventory management is a portion of it. CRM is a portion of it. Accounting is a portion of it. So typically an ERP would encompass everything within one, so that you can basically see every element of your work. That's one of the reasons why they tend to be a bit more expensive than just one particular tool for one function. So similar to what Caroline was suggesting, you can understand which area where you're struggling the most, an area where you want to address an issue or a challenge. It could be automation on sending of email or campaigns. You can definitely start there. Pinpoint, pick a tool that can basically solve that problem. The only thing that I'm emphasizing on this point is know your objectives, because without it, it will basically feel quite isolated. And I will share one personal experience that I had. I used to work for an aerospace company, and my job was to essentially navigate supply engagements for every airline that procures an aircraft. So think of SAA. If they want to acquire a new aircraft, you have to basically model the entire financing strategy for them and understand how those decisions are affecting their operations. And you do that for many other airlines. But like you might know, an aircraft is made of many different parts that come from many different suppliers. So my job was to use technology to understand and report on supplier performance. So if you are working for a company and you are dealing with multiple suppliers, how do you engage those suppliers using a performance reporting tool? That was something that was quite important. And for many of you, you might be a supplier to some clients of yours, similar to the way you are a customer to a supplier of yours. So that is quite the yin-yang situation that you must have. And I'll touch on something else that Paul started with this morning. You need to be able to have a routine. It could be something as simple as showing a report, maybe once every month, of what type of engagement you have had with your suppliers or customer. Most of you, and I've worked with businesses a lot, you can only share a statement if you have interacted or transacted with your customer. But it doesn't have to be the case. You can have a routine that says every month, I'm sharing, A, what have we transacted in? 2, what problem surfaced for you this month for which I have played a role in addressing? What value have I added? Quantify that. Use tools that Caroline have suggested. A simple design from Canva. Just one page breaking down transaction, breaking down value you've offered, challenges you've addressed, and areas of mutual learning between yourself and either your customer or your suppliers. You can use technology to actually design performance reports. That is such a powerful thing to remain noticed, both by your suppliers and by your customers, because not many companies tend to do that. Such a powerful information. It allows you to also remain on the same page with your customers. They might think you have only done 50,000 Rand this month, while you have done 150. Or there could be some communication around what you thought was their challenges, but they've communicated something different. So when you're sharing those type of details, you are allowing them to learn from you. And that formality is one of the very key essence of being one of the best suppliers to your customers. And you can use technology to address that. But again, you had an objective. My objective is to remain relevant at all times to my suppliers and customers. So when you do, make sure you're using these tools to remain relevant, and by doing things that not anyone else can do. You might be in the same sector, offering the same service, but the nature of interaction that you have with your customers are very unique to you. Quantify them, create a simple report. It's some of the best, I would say, low-hanging fruit use cases that can really make you stand out. And technology is right there to allow you to do that. So I emphasize on having those objectives. And it can only work if you do define and share that report. Have a routine, and there you go. By that point alone, you can see why Paul had to give you those suggestions, why Caroline had to share those tools. Now, if you can add that objective, before you know it, you can leave this day knowing that I now know exactly what I need to do for my customers. Start that today, and trust me, when we meet next time, I need you to share the experience you might have. Now, going to the second part. This part tends to be confused quite a bit. When we talk about systems and when we talk about processes, we talk about two different things. They are related, but they're different. Again, you want to have processes first before you could have a system, right? So operational control speaks to those measures, right? It has to adhere to a particular way of working. It's a policy, it could be a process, it could be a procedure. This is what allows you to be consistent. Glenn pointed out the same issue in the beginning. If you want to be consistent, there has to be processes. Think of it this way. You are introducing, say, Sage 1 accounting, and it's a powerful tool, very accessible. It works wonders for those who are doing accounting. And if you don't have processes that allows you to say, this particular employee should not have access to this particular section, because if they do, they might actually create confusion in how the workflow is happening. Or maybe if we are actually creating an accounting information around payment, we only pay our suppliers only on the 15th of the month, or maybe only once on the 30th of the month. You can pay any day, but you choose to have a policy that dictates how those tools are used. You can do that with everything if you look at your business, your day-to-day. Have policies and have processes dictating exactly what needs to happen, when it should happen, and when it does happen, this is how it looks like. That's the only way you can minimize errors and risk. You're going to be hiring new people, you're going to be working with more customers, more suppliers, more service providers. Having this type of policies allows you to remain consistent without having to worry about creating confusion in a process or causing chaos by sending or doing a wrong thing. And by the same extension, it allows you to be compliant, especially if you're in a business that requires to follow regulatory environment to the T. Then those policies must be very visible. It allows you to do the right thing, which allows you to make the right decisions. So if you can take that and you can basically have your processes first before you can have your system, by the time you're introducing Canva, you know exactly why you are doing it. When we are sending any communication to our suppliers, our logo must be on the bottom right. Our logo must have almost like what we call a transparent background, so that whatever we are sharing on that Canva template is not blocked by it. Our logo must have this color. You don't want to be sharing communication. Today, your logo is red. Tomorrow is purple. Next day is pink. Those policies allows anyone to know when we are using these tools, this is how it should be used. And you have control in place to make sure that you are sending the right thing. Why? Because the objective is to have a consistent branding. And that presence is what allows your suppliers or your customers to remember you. Because if you keep changing colors, it's going to be very hard for them to keep track of who you are. Consistency in something as simple as just branding can give you that advantage and make sure everyone is working on the same line. So that is one thing that I want you to elaborate. The difference between having the control and the processes versus having a system to enforce those controls and processes. All right. And some examples of operational controls would be things like access control, being it physical building where you can't really open this elevator because you are not allowed to be there. It's not discriminatory. It's done for operational relevance. You can basically work here because this is the environment in which your team belongs into. And maybe these other guys are doing something else. Financial controls, many of them. Quality controls as well. You want to have them before you can actually identify the right system to enforce them. That's the main difference. Now let's move to this part of project management. Now, for most of you, especially those who are offering a service, I want you guys to tell me today, if you are managing any project, I need you to tell me which type of a tool do you guys use for managing your projects? Anything at all. I want to hear from your actual experiences. Just feel free to drop a text on the comment and tell me what tool do you use to manage your projects?
Sarah saying I use my head. We've got some really sophisticated tools there. I can see Jira.
That is the most powerful tool of them all.
Yeah. So yeah, sophisticated tools from Nicole, you know, Jira is quite sophisticated. Then other people making use of Excel Project Planner. Sarah's chaotic. Yeah. Teamwork. Paulina saying they use Teamwork. Monday.com, I've heard of that.
Nice, yeah. These are powerful tools. Powerful tools. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I just want to pick a random person for now, right? Let me start with Sarah first. Sarah, how many people do you work with? Feel free to unmute, by the way.
Hi there. So it's mainly me for now, but I'm in the process of getting 3 people. So these systems are going to be very helpful in terms of project management and delegation and reporting, etc.
Absolutely. Okay, so for now, it's only you.
Yes, I did have someone. We tried using, there's a company called MyDoll. But you know, when you have to like look for business and manage the business, I don't have time for all these admin things.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that will soon change. So I am quite familiar with Asana,
Nice.
which would be my go-to. But if there's anything else that is a little bit more, you know, user-friendly, then happy to explore.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Lazola, can you share a little bit more about how you're using Asana to manage your projects?
Good morning, everyone. On my side, I use it. I've got quite a bit of different stakeholders in terms of the services I provide. So I'm in skills development and training. So it's for me, it's nice because it keeps every activity or action done on a particular project live. Also, it allows for me to invite or share the status of projects and the progress thereof with other external stakeholders. So on a day-to-day, if there's anything that's changed or updated, if the scope itself has changed, you're able to amend, update quickly, and also it will sort of send a notification to the respective people working on that particular project to say there's either a message, an update, or change, so that everyone can at least be alerted and then take the necessary action required. So for me, I find it very beneficial in that way. But some people also mentioned I'm also pretty old school, so Excel from time to time,
nice.
Which would feed into Asana. But yeah, I think those are also my go-to in terms of project management.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So why I was quite impressed about your response is because you work with people, both internal and external, making sure that you're all working from the same target and you're using the same tool and you want to be able to keep track of every task that you're working on. That's very important because project management is all about how people interact and how they share more information. You know, tools like Asana, Microsoft projects, and the likes, they allow you to remain in the same environment of tech ecosystem so that what is being communicated by one team member is basically playing a role to what is being used by another team member, you know? And Excel, for instance, we, in my line of work, you might have the most sophisticated software out there, but you can't really beat Excel simply because of how versatile it is and how simple to use it is. You know, it might have its own limitation, yes, but it's one of the very good starting points to understand how information around a project is really being shared. But a project management is actually more about people than tools. So if people are not using those tools, you might be facing a lot of challenge to really bring the whole bigger picture together. Or if they're using the tool in the wrong way, or maybe they are not sharing the right information. So you have to make sure that you are touching on the right way of using these tools. Now, another extra issue that most companies and most people tend to have when it comes to managing projects internally is we use these tools to keep records and not to learn from. So you'll find people having a lot of data on typical day-to-day, but if you ask them anything, they somehow can't connect what is being done to what the objective, the bigger picture of the company is to be. You know, and that is very, very critical. Similar to what Caroline was basically pointing out, there are so many CRMs out there. There are so many project management tools out there, so many accounting tools out there. You have to be able to work together because a project doesn't just exist within one particular set of tools. So your tools must either exist within an ecosystem or it must allow you to integrate different components. You know, in this example I'm sharing, we believe one of the biggest importance of having a PM tool is ensuring that your projects are completed on time and within budget. Now, completed means there are people working, multiple people working multiple things. On time, it means there are people tracking, multiple people entering the right information to track the progress of the project. Within budget, it means there are financial implications. How much are we spending? How much are we billing? That often tend to exist on other tools or other ways of sharing to your customers. In our internal study as a company, when we conducted a study on how many tools small businesses tend to have just to fulfill one end-to-end offering, they are using on average 9 tools. 9 tools. This is someone going to email and get some information there, another person going to a drive, and then you're going to WhatsApp because an order came from WhatsApp. You have to push this order into some order capturing platform somewhere, and then put that information on Excel, try to go on Sage to do an invoicing. You have literally 9 tools to do this. As you can imagine, it is very, very confusing. It can be very exhausting. This is why automation becomes very handy. Automation isn't fancy anymore. It's not for bigger companies anymore. So if you choose to work with 9 tools just so you can fulfill one order, that is on you because you know exactly the objective you want to accomplish. You have every tool. I mean, Caroline went through most of the tools that are very easy to use. And if you can manage to connect them, or if you can be guided to integrate them, then before you know it, an action taken on one can automatically pop in an alert on the other without your manual physical intervention. And that is the best way to manage your projects without you being all over the place, just so you can accomplish one function. I know the horror stories of companies that are doing wonderfully well. But if you are to look into what is really happening in terms of how they are managing their projects. You might think it is firefighting every day, it's chaotic, and it doesn't have to be. You just have to understand what you are trying to accomplish and understand the right set of tools, using the right set of processes. And if you're going to be doing that correctly, then everything should be connecting with each other from one end to the end. Now, another benefit of having a PM tool is being able to facilitate collaboration. Like I said, when you collaborate or when you're working with people, it means you're communicating with them. Make sure that the tools you're using are accessible to many. And this is unfortunately whereas, and it is quite a opinionated approach, I do acknowledge. I tend to not trust businesses that are being managed using accounting tools. You know, a lot of businesses would have an accounting tool as an operational tool. But if you think about what an accounting tool is, if you think of what a Sage 1 is, when you go in there, you'll see a bunch of expenses, see a bunch of invoices in there. No one goes to work in the morning to issue an invoice. That's not what you do every single day. So an accounting tool would actually give you an indication of what was done after your actual work. So you have done a plumbing work, or you are managing a project in construction, or you are selling food. An invoice only says, I have issued this note to a client for them to pay me, and they have maybe paid me. So if you're managing your day-to-day operation, using just an accounting tool might not really be sufficient, because it's not really giving you the actual picture of what is happening every single day. So when we talk about enabling tracking of progress and milestone, we don't just mean financial. And we see this in many cases when we talk about systems. People talk about financial systems. Financial systems work very well, but there are certain people in your companies or in your mix that tend to use them more than you. Most of businesses are not run by accountants. So you end up having your accountant or your bookkeeper on Sage, but you're on Excel or on WhatsApp or on Google Drive or on emails. Now, if you are not going to be connecting, then you're always going to feel disjointed. And that's where most of the problem with growth for small businesses tend to happen as far as the use of technology is concerned. Everyone is working somewhere, and not many have been able to connect and basically have one bigger picture. So it comes down to understanding what objective do you want to have, because you're going to be dealing with so many entities, so many people. Having things in one place, on a click, you should be able to know, this month I've offered this product. This month I've had this many challenges. And I'll give you this one example. And maybe, again, feel free to just a show of hand, yes or no. How many of you have a policy to correct mistake whenever something has happened? Actual policy. Whenever we are delivering a wrong order, this is the step we are following, and it's written, documented for everyone to see. These are the steps we are following to correct it. And this is where we are logging those issues. I can guarantee you there are some that do it, but in most of my experience, most of you don't track those type of interactions. It's almost like we are very focused on selling so much, so we don't really care for anything else. And not our fault. It's just we haven't used technology to allow us to understand these critical areas. So we are overshadowed by our day-to-day. But issues tend to happen. You have done a project, it is actually not done properly. When that happens, these are the corrective measures. These are the systems we're using to capture them. And this is what we're doing to make sure we see that it was corrected. It's a part of you managing your projects. And it's not sitting anywhere outside of your day-to-day. So try to do that. When we talk about delighting your customers, we're talking about being able to know them. Click of a button, I can see exactly. We have an operational system where when people have issues, we are logging them and we are connecting them to a task, assigning it to someone to make sure they are actually following through. Banks tend to do it. Insurance companies tend to do it. All these biggest of companies tend to do it. But when it comes to small businesses, we tend to fall behind a little bit. So we can be very excellent in many areas in the use of systems. except to the one area that addresses the concern of your customers, and doing so timely, and if you can, proactively. So you need to be able to incorporate each and every angle when it comes to managing your projects. It's not just about selling. It's really about delighting. It's about standing out. And your service is what stands you out. You might be selling the best of products or services, but your customers know the truth about you based on how you value them. And how you value them is not by chance. It has to be a proper objective. We value our customers this way, and these are the tools we are using to ensure that we do. So make sure that you're incorporating it. And I'm so happy that some of you are actually doing a version of this. And for those who are not doing it, try your very best to start having a corrective measure. This is the objective. This is a tool that we are basically trying to have because we have these processes to follow. When it is done, this is how we know it is done. When it is not done, this is how we know it is not done. That is something that I'm really, really recommending and I'm emphasizing. Think of the use of systems in that particular way. Right? And some of the examples are similar to what you guys have shared, when it comes to managing projects, Trello, Asana, Microsoft projects, Gantt charting if you're trying to understand timelines in real time, and you can manage your task in many other tools as well. But in essence, know why you are doing and why you are using those tools and understand how they are connected to each other. Okay? Now, by the way, if you have any question, please feel free to drop it on the comments. I'm going to get back to those questions right after this final part. Here, I just want to share some key steps. Again, just in summary, on where you should be focusing when you are actually looking into your business operations, as far as the use of systems is concerned. We have this belief in what we do. The only thing that matters is these three things: customer discovery, customer acquisition, customer retention. It doesn't matter what you do. These are the three areas that you need to be focusing on. Customer discovery allows you to identify channels where your typical or potential customers exist. The use of systems must be able to understand, address, and capture those customers. That's the first part. And then you have customer acquisition. If you know where your customers are, the use of a system must allow you to acquire them. And acquiring them means you are transacting with them. And if you transact with them, it means they are actually enjoying the services that you do. So don't make it once off. Try to retain them. Now, these three things, they work like an inverted pyramid. You discover your customer at the bottom, you are acquiring them, you are working with them at the middle, and then right on top is where the retention comes in. Now, if you can retain your customers, you have done what 67% of small businesses are unable to do, and therefore are struggling to grow. Because it's quite easy to sell services to a customer who understands you and appreciates you than it is to actually do the same for a new one in most cases. So you have to really, really value your customers. Retention is hard work. Retention is systematic. Retention is you having the right procedures that tells you we are not going to mess up. Retention allows you to actually let your customers do the talking for you. So make sure that you are documenting each and every step that allows you to identify them, to acquire them, and most importantly, to retain them. This is the first step that you basically have to take. Now, the second one is your day-to-day operation is what determines your month-on-month or year-on-year performance. If the only time you care about sharing your performance reporting is only when your accountant is knocking on your door, then you're doing something wrong. You have to be on top of what you're doing every single day. So map what I need to perform on. Define your performance metrics, quantify them, and then create just a one-pager. And this could be a very good task that you guys can take for yourselves. Use those beautiful tools that Caroline have basically shared before. How do I define my performance metric? If I'm looking into the last year, what metric can I use to dictate or determine that I have had a very good year or I have had a very horrible year. Now, do the same if you are to look into the month. Do the same if you are to look into the day. And if you are not getting to the day, then something is missing somewhere. Make sure that your day-to-day operation is properly mapped, because it is only by doing that and understanding that where you can really say my month-to-month performance and my year-to-year performance is really happening according to what I am hoping to achieve. So map what you're doing and use your systems to actually boost that objective. And then finally, know your customers and how they receive value from your team, right? Most of you, if I want to know about anything you've done for your customer, you're going to share with me how much money you've made with it. That is the last thing to do. Understand what value are they really getting from you, and who in your team is responsible to actually give that value. Most of the time, I hear small businesses saying we cannot afford hiring people because it's too expensive. We think of hiring people purely just on fulfilling of work, but people can be used to do so many things in a company. But the caliber or the group of your of your employees that are directly involved in actually offering value directly, you need to be able to empower them and give them the right tools, the right operational tools to do that work, because they represent you. It's almost akin to you going to a bank. If you walk into an ABSA branch and a teller at the branch is showing you very bad attitude, you're going to say, ABSA has a bad attitude, not knowing that there are thousands of people working for this bank. But your interaction and introduction to this bank is hinging on that interaction you have with this person. If you empower this person, you are empowering your entire brand to all your customers. So know your customers and understand who is actually doing the value offering in the team, and try to start with those guys in putting the right policies, processes, and system to guide and defend your position as a brand, as a company. So that's quite important. And then when it comes to business systems and processes, Elle-Marie has she has said this many times before. You have to embrace technology. And today, unfortunately for you, it is no longer an option. You cannot say, I know this, we use this word a lot, and I'm speaking to you, Sarah, by the way. You can't use your head anymore. Your head is going to be painful because you have a lot of things to worry about. Try to embrace technology. If you know that you need help, you have an ecosystem here that can really guide you and support you and really put the right tools and technology to help you work. But you cannot just use your head, you know? And then secondly, understand your processes first before you implement your systems. Don't do the other way around. It's going to be very overwhelming. It might look like it's working, but something might not really be covered properly. So know what you're trying to do. And your processes are dictated by the objective that you have. Now, just for this particular day, this half day we've spent together, if you go to those 7 strategies that Paul has spoken to, and you basically deduce what objective do you want to have in place to achieve them, and then you go to the type of tools that Caroline have basically shared with you, you can easily understand the right ones for you. That can really be as straightforward as it can be. But know those processes first before you can implement those tools. And then also, a more comprehensive systems means more efficiency, right? So you don't want to be having one group of people on WhatsApp, other group on Google Sheets, other group is on some other tools. You don't want to have 5 different things or 9 different things happening all over the place. Look and find a way to integrate them. Make sure they can speak to each other, because it is only by doing that you can really say we are being efficient. And I'm going to be extremely emphatic. I think the word is emphatic in this. If you want to be comprehensive and you want to define efficiency, you have to have a number in place. What does being efficient actually means to your company? Define it. I want to offer my services, whenever we have an order, it has to be delivered within an hour. Checkers does that. They made a claim, we will deliver your order within an hour. If you cannot define it, you cannot measure it. I need you to understand how you can measure things and how you can quantify them, because it is only by doing so where you can say my systems or my tools or my processes are actually making me more efficient, because you know what efficiency means for your business operation or objective. So that is quite important. And then here, what I'm basically trying to emphasize, if you are looking to implement a particular solution, a particular strategy, just try to think the same way your customers are thinking. You know, is it going to make me money? Is it going to cut down on my cost? Is it going to make me more efficient? If you have defined it, then these questions becomes easy. If you answer any two or both of these questions, then you are doing the right thing. Anything that you do, it is you offering a job to someone, it is you pitching your services to someone. If people cannot find a way to either generate revenue, cut down their cost, improving the efficiency, then the offering is actually diluted. So define and hold at least two of these, then you know you're moving in the right direction. So your systems must be able to further and advance this particular agenda. How can my system be used to actually enhance my ability to generate revenue? Put a system in place that can integrate all your market channels, so you have one area in which your orders are coming from. How can your system allow you to cut down on cost? I used to be spending 2 days capturing reports and sharing my proposals to customers. Today, I'm using ChatGPT and doing it in a minute. You know, technology must be used to address these type of issues. So try to understand how they fit in. And in the end, it is less about the system and more about the people and managing people who are using it. That is quite important. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. If you do what we have discussed right now properly, you're going to do what Sarah is getting, I would say, a very painful headache. Mentally, you're going to prepare yourself for redundancy. Because if you can allow your company to exist without your manual intervention, or if your supervision does require you to be there physically to make sure things are done, then you know you are winning from an operational perspective. And that is what resilience means operationally. That's what independence means operationally. No one knows the founder of Absa by person. Anyone can operate that company now because it is operated systematically. So when we talk about building a company that can exist and outlive you, that can be here 100 years from today, think systematic. If there isn't any systematic way of operating, then you as a person will always going to be needed. And God forbid you are the one to be needed, then things will not move if you're not there. You're not going to be taking a break. You're not going to be sick peacefully. Every day is going to be a painful day. So prepare yourself for being redundant. That is how you can understand if my stepping back and my having the right systems in place, how does that allow me to not being needed? And not being needed for your company, it is the biggest return you can ever give yourself. Things are happening profitably without me being there physically. That is what an ultimate end goal for having a systematic operation needs to be. And then use the correct tools, track the correct metrics, take a step back slowly and understand with each and every one step I'm taking backwards, how are my systems allowing my business to still operate consistently? That is what you really want. So that when you are indeed recruiting people or when you are training them, you are no longer giving them opinions. You have documented, you have policies that are right in front of them, and you have tools that show them how to operate. That is what you really want to be able to do. So that is what I'm going to be leaving you on. And I'm more than happy and welcome any sort of questions, any comment, and any view. Back to you, Elmer.
Thank you very much, Mohamad. Yeah, I think, there was a question that someone said, can someone please help them to, to write some business processes? And that's exactly why we have ChatGTP. It is, guys, honestly, just go and try it out. Go in, say, I run a business. We do the following things. This is the daily activities in my organization. We find that this is the kind of problems that we have. So you have a conversation. I know it feels really weird, but you literally have a conversation with the machine, and it will come back and it will say, why don't you, we would suggest that you implement processes for the following things. And then you go back and you say, what would a process look like for contacting customers regularly? What would a process look like for managing my stock? What kind of systems would I use? And use that information to start building something. We don't necessarily always need to look at other people to help us. We know our businesses better than anyone. So if you ask the right questions, you give the right information, and you just continue to tweak that, it will transform your business much quicker than having to go and wait for a business consultant to get to know your business and do something on your behalf. So let's take ownership and let's take our power back and start doing things for ourselves by using the technology that we've spoken about. So thank you so much. We are running out of time. I am just putting a link in for the feedback again, guys. Thank you so much, Mohamad. It was really interesting. I think people are just really blown away by the information that we've been sharing with them. We have another session next week on the 20th of Feb. Paul is coming back. We're then going to talk about, there was a question today around pricing, how do I talk to my customer about pricing? And it's actually leading the conversation with compelling financial questions. It is to understand, so instead of waiting for your customer to start talking about price negotiation, you lead that conversation and you are in charge and talk about, the pricing and the finances. The other thing that we're going to talk about is, a compelling brand identity that tells the right story. Is how do you stand out? What is it that your brand is saying about you? Again, one of the examples that we had earlier is, on one side of Cape Town, our customers love us, and on the other side, they just don't seem to get us. So what is the difference? Why is the one getting your brand and the other one not? And then the last session that we are going to have is around professional proposals, and it's standing out from the competition. So it's how to write a professional proposal, how to meet the compliance standards, how to do the technical and the commercial differentiation, especially when it comes to tenders. I've had a look in the feedback that we've received in the forms that you've filled in so far. And I feel very confident that many of the things that you've asked us to touch on, we address today, and also we will address in the session on the 20th of Feb. So I think with that, Mohamad, will you just share your contact details if people want to ask you some questions or reach out to you, maybe for some guidance? Paulina has also in the chats, Paulina has put in a link there. We have so many masterclasses. Again, in the comments, I've seen, in the feedback, I've seen many of you are asking, can we go deeper into specific things? We have, I think, more than 100 videos of masterclasses that we've done up until now, touching on a lot of the questions that you have. Take the time, don't do it all in one sitting. But every once in a while, just put an hour aside. We just have someone just go off mute. Just go on mute, please. Thanks. So the videos are available for everybody to to access. Just put it in as part of your business development plan. As part of your business strategy, to once a week just spend an hour to look at a specific video and see what you can implement in your business. As Mohamad has said, and Paulina and Keshni, you are now part of a community. We have a very thriving community of small businesses. We engage with each other. We're here to support you. Just be involved. Have a look at what's going on the WhatsApp groups. We are going to move over to our app very soon, which we're very excited about as well. And then remember, if you want to join the Made in Africa free online event on the 13th of March, you can also register on the link that they have put into the chats. So with that, it's 12 o'clock. We are done. Thank you so much for the time that you've spent with us, the investment that you've made today in your business and in yourself. Thank you for the feedback that we've received, and we will see you on the 20th. Thank you.